The Oregon Ducks are
quack.
coming off of a very strange year last year
Yeah.
for their standards and for any team standards, really. And what we do in this series is we're projecting the 2025 season outlook. We've covered quite a few teams already, and Oregon, I think, is one of the most interesting teams in all of college football to talk about for next year. I'm excited to get into this. I don't know what you guys think about this team. We haven't talked a lot about Oregon on the podcast, but last year they went undefeated in the regular season, 12-0, and then won the Big Ten championship in their first year in the conference, beating Penn State. And
Against
they
a
beat
juggernaut Penn State.
yeah, and they beat Ohio State in the regular season, and then had a bye, which obviously we've talked about the playoffs a lot. We know what happened with all the teams with the bye. Got dog walked by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, which Ohio State does own the Rose Bowl. They actually have their name outside of the stadium now. But that was all with Dylan Gabriel. Yeah. Dylan Gabriel is gone, and this team took a huge blow last week with Evan Stewart tearing
Potentially-
his
he tore his patellar tendon. He's out for the year.
Oh, it's confirmed.
Yeah, he's going to be out for the year. So that was like their best player coming back, and clearly their best wide receiver, and they're starting over with Dante Moore, quarterback. So, Mario, I want to start with you.
Yeah.
When you kind of look at this team, you can go through the positions or whatever you kind of want to hit on. I know all of us will have different notes. What do you see for this Oregon team heading into next season? I mean, they're minus 265 to make the college football playoffs and fifth in national championship odds at plus 900.
Yeah, this team, it's a team that I think is kind of hanging on a thin thread. Don't love this roster. I don't dislike it. I think it's being hyped up a lot more than actually
people are all over Oregon this year. They love Dante Moore.
They love Dante Moore. I unfortunately watched Dante Moore play quarterback when he was at UCLA.
He's not good.
Very, 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 very bad.
He's ninth in Heisman odds, plus 2,000.
So don't know what improved with his game. I mean, just I guess overall quarterback ability in every facet.
Yeah,
just improved. I guess we'll see. I think for me though, this starts with the coach. I've never been the biggest Dan Lanning fan. I think he's a little bit overhyped as a coach, to be honest. Don't think he's the best coach. I think he has a lot of intensity and he's a little showboaty with that, but I really don't think when it comes down to X's and O's, he's really that strategic or tactical. I think he's just a lot more emotional. A little bit of like a player's coach. But when you see like one of your stars like Evan Stewart out for the season, that's a huge blow. I know they have the freshman, don't know how to say his first,
Decorian
Moore. He's supposed to be a freak, so
number one wide receiver.
Yeah, so maybe he steps in and just takes off, has a Jeremiah Smith freshman season. I mean,
they'll need it.
That's what they need. They got the transfer at running back from Tulane, Mekhi Hughes.
Yep, Mekhi Hughes.
Who was really productive at Tulane, so I'm sure they'll find roles for them. I think their offense will be okay. They got a ton of transfers with their O-line.
Oh my gosh, the whole thing's rebuilt.
They have one returner, or one person returning. It was Kenyon Sadiq, who's actually not even really an O-lineman. He's a tight end, but he blocks a lot.
He's a beast.
And pretty much the entire thing is revamped. So we'll see. O-line is kind of similar to D-line and defense in college football, where I think you kind of need a season to kind of gain that chemistry to really unlock your full potential. I think this team will be good. We'll get into their schedule in a second, but yeah, I don't really love their defense that much. I think their offense will be explosive, and that it's kind of similar to last season, honestly. But their defense, I think, was a little bit better. Definitely a tier up. I think they drop. I think their offense drops a little bit, but you won't really realize it until they make the college football playoffs, how bad their offense is really taking a step down.
Yeah, I think you hit on a couple of the points I want to talk about. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is Dante Moore. And people are, like I said, obsessed with Dante Moore. And I see why, right? He was the number 2 overall quarterback recruit in the 2023 QB class behind only Arch Manning. Yeah. He's a 5-star. He was thrown into a really bad situation at UCLA with no offensive line, not much help at all. Yeah, like literally no help, and they just threw him out there as a true freshman. So he had 1,610 passing yards, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks, to go with negative 84 rushing yards and 0 touchdowns. So obviously struggled. But then last year he sat behind Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
In this offense, same coach, same system. So he had a year to learn it as a 5-star, which is, I think, where you're projecting out the massive step forward.
Yeah.
And we know that helps young quarterbacks. Not a lot of quarterbacks are good if you're thrown in, especially on a bad team as a true freshman. So I'm not looking too much into that. Do I think it'll be a regression from Dylan Gabriel, Heisman finalist? Yes, 100%. I think it'll be a step back. Mekhi Hughes is an absolute monster at running back, the Tulane transfer. 1,600 yards and 17 touchdowns last year at Tulane. He played there for 2 seasons. Huge get in the portal. I mean, throughout this roster, one common theme you'll see is transfers that are like the best transfers in the class, and then stars coming in as freshmen. You mentioned DeCorian Moore, who's an absolute beast. I mean, 5'10", wide receiver, consensus 5-star across all the sites, #1 overall receiver recruit. He's going to be their wide receiver 1 with Evan Stewart out, which is a huge burden to bear, but we have seen it like with Jeremiah Smith or even Ryan Williams, if you look at Alabama. Yeah. Like the top end wide receiver 1 5-stars, kind of similar to the way that rookie receivers in the NFL can now produce like insane stats where they couldn't 10 years ago.
It is a position that can translate pretty
really well. Yeah. There's not a huge like weight adjustment for a lot of these players. I mean,
it's like if you're just better,
he's 5'10", 190. That's fine for a starting receiver on the outsides. I mean, I think he'll be good. They had the 4th overall transfer portal class, like I mentioned. They had the #1 offensive lineman, Isaiah World, transfer, as well as Alex Harkey and Emmanuel Pregon, all 4-star transfers. So, yeah, like you said, it's kind of a piecemeal team. On defense, they returned the Big Ten leading sack leader in Mateo Uiagalelei, DJ's brother.
I was going to say DJ's brother.
Yeah, he's an actual monster. He's projected to go potentially in the 1st round in a lot of mock drafts for next year. And they added Purdue transfer defensive back Dylan Thieneman, who was one of the best in the Big Ten last year. And then they returned the team leader in sacks at linebacker Bryce Botcher. So they have an interesting team dynamic with like a young or I guess not so young anymore, but like former 5-star quarterback who hasn't had a lot of production, a brand new wide receiver but super high recruit, really highly ranked transfer running back, brand new offensive line, a couple of really good defensive players, and then a bunch of transfers as well. It's a weird team to project.
It's a crapshoot, dude.
This feels like a complete crapshoot to me. I think their defense will be very middle of the pack, and I think the common theme is just relying heavily on unproven players.
Yeah.
For Oregon. Like they have a couple returning guys who produced well, and it's really just Mateo and then the linebacker. But everyone else is either a transfer that had produced somewhere else in a worse conference or a new player for them. So we're going to talk about the schedule in a sec, but I can see both ways for this team, and it'll be interesting to go through the games.
Yeah, I am not really too favored on this Oregon Ducks team. I just don't like the idea of Dante Moore being their quarterback. So while he was at UCLA, like Tyler said, he was going 11 for 9. Touchdown interception ratio. But that was with the 98th ranked offensive line in terms of how often their quarterback was getting sacked. Oregon last year was boasting the number 28 offensive line in terms of protecting their quarterback. And obviously, there's going to be some kind of meat in the middle there. He's not going to be their line isn't going to be
as good
as bad as 98, and it's not going to be as good as 26 or whatever.
Projection.
And so the real question is, how does Dante Moore, how do his stats then translate? So does it become 15-6, or does he just somehow skyrocket on this kind of new offensive team that we haven't seen him on?
Yeah, it's a completely new offense.
Literally brand new. And so I have very minimal faith in his ability to do anything at all on this team, especially given the situation. I think, you have a year where you're learning and you're observing and you're, doing everything with all these coaches. But then next thing you know, you're standing on different ground with different people in front of you. What does that year actually do besides learn how to play more football? It's like these guys are, I think this guy is smart enough to, understand new plays and new playbooks and stuff like that. Pick up offenses. But I think a lot of it
behind Dylan Gabriel,
but I think a lot of it also part of the point of sitting out is to build chemistry with your teammates and kind of just understand how these guys move and work around you. I think that's going to be very difficult to do when he's pretty much just starting that brand new. I have, like I said, very minimal faith, so I don't really think this is going to be a great season for them.
Yeah, it's tough with this Oregon team, and we're gonna go through the schedule right now. But I mean, their total
Their schedule's easy.
their win total is 10.5.
It's easy.
Right? And so when it's like we don't have a lot of faith. At the end of the day, it is Oregon, and Dan Lanning does put out. I mean, Oregon puts out offenses that score points.
Yeah.
That's just what they do. And so it's like, do I think they're going to be a completely inept offense with a third-year 5-star quarterback? No. I don't. Like, they have the former number 2 overall quarterback recruit and the number 1 incoming overall wide receiving recruit. Like,
And a great running back. And
yeah, so like they have pieces I think can do really well.
yeah.
But yeah, let's just get into the schedule because this
easy.
team's a
It's
complete
easy.
this team's a complete question mark for me. The 10.5 win total is minus 102, so it's literally a coin flip on that number between 11 and 10. Game 1, home against Montana State,
You dub.
win. I think it's the perfect way to start the season.
Yeah, you build momentum.
If
win by
if
60.
this is a game, like we talked about Oregon previously, and we talked about Clemson too, and Texas. You guys play Ohio State. Clemson plays LSU. Notre Dame plays Miami. All of those are premier game ones for quarterbacks to step into, like Arch's first game, as a starter, like as a full starter for a new unit, and CJ Carr for Notre Dame stepping in as his first start.
Julian Sayin against
Julian
Texas.
Saying against Texas, exactly. Montana State is the perfect game for Dante Moore to get a bunch of confidence.
Yeah.
And to carry on Moore to score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like, they got to get these guys rolling, and I think this is the perfect way to start. So that game, that was my thought process when I started to look through the schedule. I'm like,
How can they build
they can get a
momentum?
lot of momentum heading into a really tough 5th game, which we're going to talk about in a
Penn
sec. Home against Oklahoma State,
Easy.
win. At Northwestern,
Win.
win. And then home against Oregon State.
Rivalry kind of tough, but
It is. And Oregon State, non-conference affiliated, is a really interesting team. I think they actually have a decent roster heading into next year, but I think it's a win as well. So I think they start 4-0.
Yeah.
And they'll be ranked in the top 4 in the country. So I just want that in the back of our minds when we talk about this 5th game, which is at Penn State.
loss.
Yeah.
Loss.
100% loss.
100% loss.
See, I think that too, but I think we'll see how he's playing. If
This will be like their litmus test of like how good they are. If they,
it's the hardest game of the season by far on their
it's
schedule.
their only game.
The only game, yeah.
If they go out and get blown out, it's exactly what this Oregon team, in my opinion, my read on them preseason
Yeah.
is that they go out and get blown out, lose by 30. So if that happens, then it's like, okay, I know exactly what this team is. If they're in a battle and it's like down to the wire, this team's way better than I thought.
Okay.
Because I'm with you. They're going to be 4-0. I don't even need to look at the scores.
They're gonna be
I don't
4-0.
care if they win 100-0 against Montana State. It's not going to change my mind about this team not being as good as everyone's hyping them up. So this is really their test, in my opinion. I think there's 0% chance they win.
Same.
But if it's a game or not, will kind of determine where they size up with the rest of college football teams.
Yeah.
That's just my take.
This Penn State game, it sounds like you think the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, pretty
Okay.
similarly.
Yeah, I think this is. I agree with you. It's a great litmus test. It doesn't matter for them making the college football playoffs. We'll go through the rest of the schedule. They're going to get in.
Yeah.
And it helps that their preseason ranking is so high.
Yeah.
It adds
Oregon
a
will be
cushion.
in the 12-team
Yeah.
playoff. But I think there's a chance they win this game. I don't think it's likely. I just don't love Penn State as much as the next person. I know they're bringing back a
I
lot.
just like regular season, Penn State game doesn't matter and it's a home game.
Yeah, I mean,
You know.
it is a revenge game. I mean, Oregon beat them in the Big Ten championship last year.
Yeah.
I just think this Oregon team is this is the most interesting team, honestly, preseason to watch because through 4 games, you all think they're 4-0. They probably score a shitload of points in all those
Yeah.
games. So Dante Moore's Heisman odds are probably going to be up there.
Yeah.
An undefeated
point.
Oregon that has a bunch of stats. If they
Throws 5
are
touchdowns a
really,
game.
really rolling, and he, as a former number 2 overall recruit, only behind Arch Manning, is like feeling himself, would I take him over Drew Allar, who I don't think is that fantastic? I think he's like a slightly better game manager. I know it's on the road at Penn State. It'll probably be a night game. So it's going to be tough. I don't know. I just don't think this is I don't think you can write this in pen as a loss. I think
Yeah.
pencil it in as a loss. Which is what I'm doing. I'm penciling it as a loss, but 4 weeks
Save
in,
the eraser.
it's the perfect time to schedule to play 'em. It's not at the end of the season where they're going to be heading into the playoffs with a loss, but they have a month and a half of football to just get rolling, get these young guys feeling something.
to
The
win
O-line-
in good fashion.
yeah, and then roll into Penn State just on fire. So, yeah, pencil in as a loss. Then they go home against Indiana.
I want to put that as a loss.
Really?
I really do.
You like Indiana for next year?
I love Kurt Signetti.
Yep.
Yeah, Kurt Signetti. I want to say Curtis Rourke, but he's no longer with us.
Oh, we know where he is.
Well, I mean, shout out Curtis.
Shout out OU.
Shout out Curtis.
Oklahoma. Wait, no, he's not at Oklahoma. I'm thinking of John Mateer.
Yeah,
Didn't Curtis Rourke go to the draft?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he 100% did. I was thinking
He's
Mateer.
in the NFL.
That's on me.
But yeah, I mean, I just like this Indiana team. We've also seen Oregon and this Dan Lanning Oregon Ducks team last year play games that were far too close than necessary and far too close for comfort. I just like a little stumble in the road.
Do you think a loss?
I want to put it as a loss. I penciled it in as a
Penciled in as a loss. I
penciled
think 100% win. I think Indiana sucks next year.
Oh,
I agree.
Okay. At Rutgers.
Win.
Win. Home against Wisconsin.
So actually, that's the one I'll pencil in as a loss.
This is an 80.
I mean, pencil in as a win for Oregon.
Okay.
Pencil in.
Yeah. Well, I have a slightly darker pencil. Maybe like an Expo marker, but you could erase it if you need to. 80% chance of win. I think Wisconsin actually takes a step forward this year, but it's a home game. Oregon doesn't make a habit of losing quite a lot of home games. That environment's pretty electric. What do you think about that game? Win?
Yeah, no, I win.
At Iowa,
Win.
in my opinion, it's the second hardest game on their entire schedule. Iowa just plays insane defense always.
I just don't think they're
That's all
as
they
good as
do.
last year.
Iowa, yeah, probably not, but I don't know. It's likely a win. It's a win, but the Wisconsin Iowa back to back. If you had to really look at their schedule and be like, where else is there maybe a stumble spot? I think it'd be in those
2 weeks.
Those two games.
They could lose a game.
Yeah, home against Minnesota, it's a win.
Win.
Home against SC.
I think it's a win, but
That's a win.
It's a win, but it's not.
Yeah. It's like a.
We'll see.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
win.
if they lose to Penn State and then they stumble one of the two, Wisconsin,
Then it
Iowa,
definitely becomes more interesting of a
and it
game.
depends how SC's doing. This could be a lot bigger of a game than we're thinking about just breezing past it now. And then at Washington to end the season, I mean, that's usually
That's
a close
tough
game.
place to play.
Tough place to play. End the season on an away game. I think it's a win. I don't love Washington for next year.
I would put it as a win.
Okay. So the total is 10.5 and it's a coin flip. I'm going under.
I have 2 losses.
You have 2 losses? Yeah, I think 10-2 is likely for Oregon. So I'm taking the under on even money. But again, this is not something I'm betting with confidence in either direction because I didn't think they'd go 12-0 last year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they beat Ohio State. I don't think Dan Lanning's a great coach, but he's done well in regular seasons.
Yeah,
he hasn't
that
done
is
anything
very
in playoffs,
true.
and they did win the Big Ten last year. They're plus 290 to do it this year. So I'm not betting them to win the Big Ten. I think Ohio State or Penn State will probably end up taking that, and maybe there'll be a sleeper team in there. Who knows?
Indiana.
But no, I don't think so.
Okay.
But so yeah, I'm going under on the win total and saying they're not winning the Big Ten. Mario?
I agree. Yeah, I like under, and I love them not winning the Big Ten. That would be like sell the house.
Yeah.
10-2 is likely. 10-2 is likely.
Yeah, I say
Not going to bet it big though.
don't win the Big Ten championship. Maybe make it to the Big Ten championship though. Under on win total. Make it to a playoffs first round exit.
Wow. Yeah, to make the playoffs, I think was minus 265.
Ugh, I hate that.
It's a terrible number. Terrible value.
I kind of like. Do they make the playoffs? Probably. But that seems like
Terrible
That
value.
seems
heavy.
way too. I mean, they must like.
they're fifth in national
There's
championship
something
odds.
that just we don't know. Everyone loves this team. There's a ton of hype. They're heavily
color.
favored preseason. Like either people are just buying into the hype, or they all know how good Dante Moore is, and we just don't know yet.
Yeah, and so I think it has a lot to do too with the way that the playoff format's being talked about, like potentially 4 auto bids. We don't know what the playoffs look like. 4 auto bids potentially for the Big Ten. I think everyone's basically penciled in Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon to make the playoffs, regardless. So Oregon would have to lose 3 games, one of those being bad, to miss the playoffs. And even then, they could probably be talked about as a fringe team.
Yeah.
Depending on how the losses
They'd have to
look.
lose. I think if they lose 4 games,
0% chance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had an at-large 3-loss team in the playoffs yet.
Yeah.
So a 3-loss at-large bid would be kind of unprecedented.
Yeah.
But this Oregon team's a weird one. I'm kind of on the same page as you guys, though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bet them to make the playoffs, but they're probably going to make the playoffs. I just don't want to lay 2.5 to 1.
I hate that number.
And I'm not betting this team to win the national championship at plus 900.
No,
there are
yeah.
way better teams
I agree.
at odds way below that. So it sounds like we're majority in consensus
Pretty
here
much in
against.
lockstep.
Kind of same as Notre Dame.
Kind of comparable teams. I just think Oregon more explosive offense, not great defensively.
Less
Yeah.
proven in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
and then Notre Dame will kind of just be a very not pretty
Well coached.
but well coached team. I could easily see both these teams losing in the first round, potentially making to the second round, and I don't think there's any way either of those two teams make it that second round.
Yeah, well, definitely one of the more interesting stories to watch is how this team develops. And Dante Moore is an individual.
Yeah.
Like, if they just roll
He
this
could
year,
just take off.
he could win the Heisman. I don't think he will. I think there's a lot better quarterbacks, but it's so weird. It always gets me with these Big Ten schedules. And I know the Big Ten is a tough conference. I'm not saying it is not a tough conference. They have 3 very top-heavy programs. But, when you look through a Big Ten schedule, you get those games like Northwestern, Indiana, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Washington. None of
What
those,
is that?
none of those teams. There are some spots there, but those are not the
Playoff
SEC
teams.
schedules
Yeah.
teams that we see. And a lot of people are saying, Big Ten's won back-to-back years. It's the power conference now.
It's not.
I think there's a difference between there are a few teams that are maybe a better group of 3 teams than another conference has versus a conference.
Yeah, the whole
There's
conference
18 teams.
of-
There's
yeah.
so many teams in these conferences. Over half of the Big Ten football teams are horrendous. Really bad. So it's hard for me to judge these teams. We saw Oregon go 12-0.
Yeah.
And then just look awful in the playoffs. Granted, it was
They
again
got
to
waxed.
the future champions
Yeah.
in Ohio State. But this is an interesting team. I'm sure people will have quite a few different opinions on this. So let us know in the comments what you think about Oregon heading into next
Quacking with the
season.
Ducks.
Yeah, it's 10.5 wins. If you think they're going to beat Penn State, this over for win total
Yeah,
is the
nuke
easiest
it.
bet in your life. It's even money.
Oh, yeah.
You need to go all in on this and then just lay the money for them to make the playoffs. If they beat Penn State, 0% chance
It's
they miss
over.
the playoffs.
Yeah.
So that game's everything.
Yeah.
And if they lose it, still likely they make the playoffs, but
Yeah.
who knows after that. Share with a friend, subscribe. Let us know, again, what teams you want us to cover. There are a lot of interesting teams to talk about. This is one of the more interesting ones. But
Give
I'm
me
excited.
Montana State
No, I don't think
as
we're...
a
No.
outlook.
Maybe. If you guys request it, if there's 10 Montana State comments, we'll do Montana
I'm making
State.
10 all accounts.
Do it.
I will.
Make your alt account. Mike on his burners is always something to see. You should
Yeah.
see
Hello.
his Texas burner is awesome.
Hello.
Really. Didn't one of the Texas burner accounts get in the cover of NCAA 26?
Not my burner account, but one of the popular text accounts.
You weren't in the photo shoot for NCAA 26.
No,
to
no,
clarify.
unfortunately not.
Okay, yeah, that's. I didn't want anyone to think I said that you were in the cover of the video.
Well, that is what you said, but no, that was a misleading statement.
All right, well, let us know what you think. We're looking forward to continuing this series. We'll stay tuned with us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, quack along.